Boy, Nick's going to be on one today. He's gotten all fired up on that today. One of the things that Nick Wright and I sort of agree with, I'm more pro-Celtics than he is. Maybe I'm more anti-Tatum than he is. But you start looking around, and generally, Brou, you can identify very early kind of the next face of the league or a different level superstar. Even though Jordan wasn't winning, he was working everybody. The practices, the ferocity, the points, production. And I look at Wemby, and I look at Jokic, and I look at Ant. And I feel like there's more excitement about Ant already than there is about Tatum. And I said this the other day to somebody. I said, there's a certain mentality with Tatum. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a Kobe or an Ant or an MJ. It just doesn't feel like, even a Dwayne Wade. Where are you now on Tatum? Yeah.
It's interesting what you said because his idol was Kobe Bryant. He mimicked a lot of Kobe's game, but he doesn't have that kind of killer instinct, it seems, that Kobe. I don't want to say he's not a competitor because he certainly is. And he's had some huge playoff moments, with their backs against the wall for the Celtics. But there's something that seems to be lacking. And I think that I would put him, even though he was on my first team All-NBA. He was on my MVP ballot. He was fourth on my MVP ballot. But I think he is a notch below the absolute superstars of Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, and now Anthony Edwards. You're absolutely right. There is more buzz and excitement about Edwards. And it's kind of like you just know it when you see it, Colin. Like you said, Jordan was getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs, but everybody knew he was a superstar.
Right.
He had sneakers. He had commercials at that point. And it's similar with Anthony Edwards. Maybe Tatum can change it if they somehow got over the hump and won it this year. I don't see them doing that. But, yeah, Edwards has surpassed. And let's face it, before the off-the-court problems, Ja Morant had passed Jayson Tatum as a young, kind of up-and-coming face of the league.
So you're close to the Knicks, and I look at the Knicks, and yesterday was kind of inevitable. They're all banged up. They're Josh Hart was giving you double his career numbers. So I don't know what transpires rest of the way. Starting tomorrow in New York, the crowd will be back. It'll be fun, and they get Game 7 at home. But it's going to be interesting to me because I don't think they're a championship team, but I do think for the last 2 to 3 years they've been very patient and well-run. I hear a story today about Kevin Durant didn't even talk to Vogel. That was the story out here. They didn't get along. And I think to myself, I don't know, maybe this is the same question, but if they had to make a move in New York, is it seismic? Is it subtle? Because clearly the culture, Brunson, the toughness, that's all there. They got to get another guy.
Yep.
Where do you think they go?
Yeah, they absolutely need to get another guy. And the danger for the Knicks, Colin, is thinking that they've arrived. Atlanta made it to the conference finals a few years ago behind their young, hotshot point guard, Trae Young, right? Who, let's face it, has had a better career than Jalen Brunson to this point. Yeah. And we see that the Hawks aren't anywhere near championship contention. So you can't, Portland a few years ago was in the Western Conference Finals, but wasn't really close to being a championship team. And that's where the Knicks are. So they better be careful not to rest on their laurels. They're only going to have a legitimate chance of getting to the conference finals because Milwaukee and Philadelphia were so banged up and injured, and their stars were injured. So they need to make a big move. I wouldn't be careless, but I also wouldn't be overly cautious because you can build and build and build and be careful and, we're saving for the future and never get there, okay? New York is starving for a championship. It's been 51 years, Colin, and outside of the Patrick Ewing era, there have been very few years where they actually have really been like a legitimate contender. I covered them The last time they went to the finals in 1999 with Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, they weren't really one of the ultra-elite teams in the league. They had a great run through the East that year and got to the finals, but they never came close, really that close again. And so the Knicks I think they should go for something big if it's out there. And you mentioned Kevin Durant. Look, Phoenix doesn't want to trade him, but where's Phoenix going? This is championship or bust for the Suns. All right, let's not lower the expectations now that it's obvious they're not getting to a championship.
Right.
With Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, it is championship or bust. And if I were them, I would be open to trading Durant, seeing what I could get for him, what type of draft picks, what type of young players to fit around Devin Booker, and I would start building around Booker because they're not going to win a championship as currently constructed. So why are you even keeping Durant there? Unless you just want to sell tickets and be a show and be relevant. But I would, if I'm the Knicks, I look for something big. But outside of a Durant move, I mean, Paul George, you know, there are other things they can try. But I think a Durant move is what I would go for. I know it's a long shot, but that would be right at the top of my list.
So Denver, Minnesota, interesting series, very physical. It was a defensive series for the first two games, has now pivoted to more of an offensive skill series. That plays right into Denver's wheelhouse. I mean, again, Gordon yesterday he was the best player they had. Murray can give you 30. Jokic takes over games. Porter gets hot hitting threes. All of these guys can take over a half or a game offensively, even though Gordon's viewed more as a defensive player. But it is interesting. One of my takeaways of this series, now that Denver feels like it's 2-2 but has control, is Karl Anthony Towns was a no-show yesterday. And I'm like, eventually Jordan had to get a Pippen. Kobe had to get like a Shaq or a Gasol. And this team feels very lopsided. Ant scores, and you cross your fingers on Karl Anthony Towns. And that's just not good. That's not getting through Denver. That may not get through a Boston. So when I look at Minnesota currently constructed, I love the roster. But I do wonder, because you've been watching this for a long time. Karl Anthony Towns has always had the same reputation. Super talented, little emotional, can get hot and cold. You can't depend on him, but wildly talented. I kind of feel like watching him yesterday, I'm like, I could see them just saying, but we got to get more consistency, a more consistent personality. We got to get Ant his Pippen. Or am I hyperbolic? Do you think they just bring this crew back?
Well, look, let's see what happens over these next few games. Obviously, Denver is in control. Now, I picked Minnesota in 7. I'm sticking with the T-Wolves. This is what happens in a 7-game series, right? There's times you think this team's going to win it, times you think that team's going to win it. But let's see what happens over these next few games. But I have to admit, objectively, Denver now is in control. They have home court advantage. They've stolen the momentum, all of that. But there are two key players in this series I see. Obviously, Jokic and Edwards mean a ton, right? But for the most part, you know you're going to get top-notch performances from those two.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon is big because you said he's hitting threes. Last 2 games, he's 5 of 6 from 3. And what that does is that it takes away from Gobert's ability to protect the rim when Cat or Naz Reid is guarding Jokic. And so it draws him away from the basket. So that's been huge. Let's see if Gordon can keep that up. But the two keys, Jamal Murray for the Nuggets, right? He struggled in the first 2 games. I got to give him credit. He was facing controversy, as he should have been. And he was, had played poorly in the first 2 games, not to mention the calf injury. Comes out in games 3 and 4 and is terrific. And they played good defense on him a lot of times. And he just hit that turnaround, fadeaway, mid-range jumper all night, shot it well from 3 as well. He's huge. Can he keep this up, or does he go back to kind of struggling the way he has throughout most of the playoffs? If that happens, they're going to have a tough time winning. On the other side is Cat. As you said, he averaged 23 points a game, shot about 64% from the floor in the first 2 games, no shows in the next 2. And game 3, he only took 7 shots.
Yeah.
So you are absolutely right about his lack of consistency. But let's see what he does. He is ultra talented.
Yes.
He's a good 2. Remember, he accepts being, he's accepted that Edwards is the guy.
Yep.
Which is, that's a value there. But yeah, if I could get something much better for him, I'd be open to it if they lose this series. But I'm not shopping him. I'm like, oh, I got to get rid of him.
Right.
I might need to find maybe a more consistent number 3.
Yeah.
Because after those 2, who's definitely giving me buckets on that team?
Yeah.
And Gobert struggles around the rim, unfortunately, for the T-Wolves.
No, that's actually a good point. But it's funny, I've liked Karl Anthony Towns forever, but he also disappears since he got into the league. He has these stretches, and I do feel like Pippen was limited offensively, but I got the exact same performance from him virtually every night. So to me, that inconsistency with Karl Anthony Towns would drive me nuts. But to your point, he does accept being a 2, and not every great player that gets buckets.
Which Pippen did. That's a key.
Yeah. Good seeing you, Brou.
All right, Colin. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.